In this video, we will learn how to do pivot tables and pivot charts in Python. But before we get into writing some code in Python to do pivot tables and pivot charts, let me review how to do pivot tables and pivot charts in Excel. So let's suppose we have this data in which we have sales and profit, which are two quantitative variables, and we have segment, category, and product, which are qualitative variables. So in pivot tables and pivot charts, what we do is we pick a quantitative variable and we slice it and dice it in any number of ways on qualitative variables. So for example, show me the sales split by segment, or sliced by segment, or sliced by category, or sliced by product, or sliced by a combination of segment and country. So within each segment, show me sales by each country, or segment and product. Within each segment, show me the sales for each product, or country and product. So within each country, show me the sales by each product. So we can slice and dice data by any combination of these three variables. Now also, instead of putting all the variables on one axis, we can use one variable on the x-axis and the other as column or legend, or two variables on the x-axis and one in legend, or one variable on the x-axis and two in legend or column, same thing. So let me demonstrate with a few quick examples. So while my cell pointer is anywhere on this data, I will say insert and I will say pivot chart and pivot table, and it automatically selects the table range, in this case A1 through E701. And let's go to a new worksheet. So we pick one of the quantitative variables, so we can pick either sales or profit, and that will go in the values quadrant. So let's pick sales. Okay, so the default is sum of sales. We can change that to count of sales or average sales or max or min of sales. Let's stick with sum for now. Now this is the total sales, and we want to slice it by, let's say, segment. So segment goes on the x-axis. So that's the breakup of total sales, which was 118 million, has been broken up into 5 segments. Instead of segments, we could have broken it or sliced it by country. We have 5 different countries. Instead of segment or country, we could have broken up by product. We have 6 different products. Or we can do a combination of 2 of these. So segment and country. So we have 5 segments and 5 countries. So we have 25 things here for each segment, each country. And here's the chart for it. Or we can do all 3. Now this gets messy. We don't want to do 3 variables on the x-axis. It gets really messy and not very useful. So what we do is we can distribute it between x-axis and the columns or legend. So for example, instead of having product here, we can put product in the legend. So it's distributed differently. Now the product is in columns. Or we can just have one variable on the x-axis and one in the legend. Okay, and we can switch things around. We can put product on the x-axis and segment on the legend. So we just pivoted the table and the chart. So that's why they call it pivot tables and pivot charts. So how to do all this in Python? Oh, by the way, instead of sum of sales, I could have said, give me average sales. So these are average sales. See here, the numbers are, the scale of these numbers is now very different. We can also say count of sales. See here now the scale is very different because we're just counting number of sales. Okay, so how to do all this in Python? So this data, by the way, is called financial sample data, financial sample.csv. So I'm going to remove Excel and bring Spider instead. So pivot tables and pivot charts in Python. So let me show the data file, financial sample. So this is the same data that we just saw in Excel. We have segment, country, product, sales, and profit. and we have 700 rows of data. Okay, so let's write some Python code. So pivot tables and pivot charts in Python. So the first thing we do is read the data file. So we will import pandas as PD, and then data frame equal to pd dot read underscore CSV, and then the name of the data file, which is financial sample dot CSV. Okay, so let's print the data file to see if we are reading it correctly. Okay, so we run this, import pandas, good, read the data file, good, print it, good. 700 rows, 5 columns, segment, country, sales, profit, etc. So we don't need the print anymore, we have tested it, we can comment it out. Okay, so now we are ready to create the pivot table. So we have to come up with the name of a variable. We can call it PT for short for pivot table. And we need to use a function called pivot underscore table, and this function is part of the pandas library. You just have to know that. So pandas dot pivot underscore table, and that's the list of parameters it needs. It needs the data. We have already read the data. Okay. Then it needs the values. Are we doing it on sales or profit? So we'll say sales, comma, and what are we splitting it by? So that's an index. So we can index it by country or product or segment. Let's just do country first. No columns yet, we'll do columns later. And what's the aggregate function? Is it the sum or the count or the mean? Let's do sum of sales. Okay. And then we can print our pivot table. Okay. So let's run this. Okay, it ran. So let's print it. There. Sales are split by country. So we have 5 countries. So sales has been split up or sliced by country. We could have sliced it by product. If we run this, see, sales is now split by product. We could have split it by segment. We run this, see, split by segment. These are the 5 segments. Now we could have also split it by 2 things, country and segment. Let's run this. See, now within country, Canada, we have 5 segments. But all of this will add up to the total sales. Okay? So you get the idea. And instead of sum, we could have done count. Count. See, the count is much smaller than the dollar value. We could have done mean. Mean, instead of sum or count, we could have done mean. So the mean values will be, of course, bigger than the count values, but less than the sum values. See, these are much smaller than sum values. Okay. So this is great, but how do we do charts? Well, for charting, we will have to, of course, import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Let's run this. Okay, that's fine. So now what we can do is, if you want to plot sales by country, sum of sales by country, so how to plot our pivot table? So that's our pivot table. We'll say pt.plot kind equal to let's say it's a bar chart that we want, bar, and let's give a fixed size equal to say 15, 10. Okay, let's run this. Let's run this whole thing. Okay, plot here. His sales has been broken up by country because it's sales by country. Okay, now we can give it a title, plt dot title, sum of sales by country, and plt dot x label is country, and plt dot y label is sum of sales in USD, plt dot show. Okay, let's run this whole thing. There, now here it says sum of sales in USD, sum of sales by country. Okay, let me fix that and run it again. Yeah, sum of sales by country. Okay. Now that we have this code for plots, we can plot this one. So this is sales by product. So the title will be sum of sales by product. Okay, so let's run this whole thing. So now we have product. Oh, I have to change X label to product. Yeah, sum of sales by product. Here it will be sales by segment. Sales by segment. So X label will be segment. Okay, run this whole thing. Now this is same of sum of sales by segment. Okay, now here we have two index values. Okay, so sum of sales by country and segment. Country and segment. On the x-axis we have country and segment. Okay, let's run this. See, we have country and segment. So within Canada I have 5 segments, within France 5 segments, and so on. Okay, similarly the next one is count, not sum but count. So count of sales by country and segment. Count of sales. Okay, let's run this. So that's the count of sales. Remember there were a lot of 20s, so these 20s and 60s. Okay. What was this? Mean sales. Okay, mean sales by country and segment. So we will copy and paste the code for plotting. And we will say mean. Mean of sales. Mean of sales in USD. Let's run this whole thing. And we have mean of sales. Now the next thing is how to put some of these variables in columns. So let's take the last one. Let's take the last one. So let's just put country in index and segment in columns. Columns equal to segment, comma. Okay. So if we just run the table part, see, I have country in rows and segment is in columns. So if we run the plot, see, now we have a legend. See, now we have a legend. And we have country here, so we only have country on the x-axis and legend, plt.legend title equal to segment, location equal to best. Okay. Now let's run this whole thing. There, I have segment, channel partners, enterprise, government, mid-market and small business, and this is mean of sales. Okay, we can copy and paste this, and instead of mean I can go back to sum, and this will become sum, and run this whole thing. Now we have sum. You see, this is, the scale has changed. This is 12 times 10 to the power of 7. And we have country on the x-axis and segment on legend. We can put two things on x-axis and one thing on segment. So for example, we can copy and paste this and put sales and country, country and segment here, and put product in legend. So sum of sales by country and segment and product. So on the x-axis I have country and segment, and this is sum of sales, and the legend will be product. Okay, so let's run this whole thing. See, we have country and segment. So for each country, Canada, I have 5 segments, and then within each country and each segment I have sum of sales by product. Okay, and I can change things around. I can put any variable on the x-axis and any variable on the legend, and we can repeat this whole thing for profit. So here, instead of sales, we can have profit, and here we will say sum of profit, and let's run this, and now we have profit. Okay, I think we have done sufficient number of examples for you to get a good idea of how pivot tables and pivot charts are done in Python. So that's the end of this lesson.